Hello and welcome guys. So today I have been working on a landscape material and I wanted to share with you guys. First of all, I'll showcase the material itself. If you guys want to skip ahead now. The link will be in the description for the timestamps. So let's get started. So I've made this material. Just gonna make a quick landscape to give you guys a demonstration of what it does. So I'm gonna create, and this is my material. I'm gonna go to paint. I'm gonna choose my layers for grass, rock, ground, pebble ground, and mud. So what I'm gonna first do is I'm gonna take my pebble ground. I'm gonna make the brush size bigger. I'm gonna paint it all over the ground, and as you guys can see, this is my mud texture. So sorry, this is my pebble ground. I was supposed to do ground mud. My bad. Sorry. Okay, just do that. It's also because my tool strength is quite low. Okay, so there you go. So this is my mud texture. So as you guys can see, no matter how far you go, you don't notice too much tiling going on. And so what I have here is I have two textures mixed together to give this type of effect with a lot of macro variation, which I actually learned by looking at the materials inside the starter content. So this is my basic ground texture. And then if I go to pebble ground, so what I'm using this for is so for example, if I have a forest and I want to make a path, so I'm just gonna just drag this around, and this gives me a nice looking path for the character to walk on. So what this is, it's a basic texture which is blended in together with some leaves. And also what I can actually do is I can actually so if I open the material instance for this material, and I'll show you guys down here. So down here I have all the settings down here. So for example, for the pebbles, if I just select this and I can change the color here. So let's say if I want my dirt to be lighter, so it's a lot more, so it actually stands out a lot more from the mud texture, I can do that. If I maybe, not sure if that would work, let's have a look. So yeah, so I can give it different looks from here, also with the mud. If I want my mud texture to be a lighter color, perhaps I can do this, or yeah, so now I have a different looking mud as well. So it allows quite a bit of variation between the textures. Then I also have a rock texture down here, and once again I can change the color as well, make it more lighter, or I can go to green, and then I have some moss on my rock. Now none of these are actually using normal maps, which is why you can't really see that very well, but I think it still looks pretty decent. And if you guys did want to add normal maps, once you guys will have seen how I make this, you guys will be able to add your own normal maps. Okay, and now I'm gonna go and paint the ground, the grass ground texture, and you guys will notice something as soon as I paint this here. Now wherever I paint my ground grass texture, I have these flowers and this grass spawning. This grass is actually from the grass blueprint, which I found on the Unreal forums. It was posted by someone. I'll leave a link in the description. And the flowers are from the kite demo. So wherever I paint grass, I have this natural grass spawning on top, and the settings for all of these I can actually access in my type grass. So if I open my type grass, all the settings for these are in here, and I can have as many ground plants as I want. I did try putting down some trees, but don't do that because you can't put collision on these things, since they spawn and they have to spawn and despawn all the time, since your terrain could be huge. So collision would be extremely expensive, which is why Unreal Engine doesn't allow that. So don't put anything that has collision for grass and ground plants, okay? Since these don't need any collision. And then, so yeah, so this is basically it. And you guys can obviously make paths and add grass as you go along, and blend between textures. And there are a few other options I want to show you guys. Is this tool strength could be really useful. If you want a nice looking blend, you can turn up the brush fall off and turn down the tool strength. And then for example, if I try to, now I have a blend between the rock and the pebbles that I had here. I can even paint some mud on top. Just click once, and even some grass, and now I have a blend between all four textures. And then of course the one other thing I have in here is in my I did not mean to do that at all. Anyways, so inside my material instance, another thing I have is I have this roughness parameter. So if I turn this down to 0, I get this like wet looking ground. So now I could like now it would be a lot better for rain, I suppose. So there's a lot of options you guys can play around with. And so this was the showcase, guys, and now we will get started with actually making the material. I won't make it from 0 till the end. I'll show you every single node in detail so you guys can copy and follow along, and then we'll all have a nice looking texture. And just to let you know, a lot of these textures, not a lot of these, but maybe 2 or 3 of these textures are actually from cgtextures.com. You guys can check out his website. He's made them available for the 3D artists to use. You can read his terms and conditions, and he's kept it quite flexible. So that's a really good place to get your assets from. And of course, the other ones I'm using are from the starter content. So let's get started. All right, starting off, here is my material. At first look, you guys might get confused or something, but I'll keep this extremely simple for you guys, and you guys should be okay after this, okay? So what I'll do for this is, we'll just focus on one. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just copy these on the side, and I'll demonstrate these to you guys, which should allow us a lot of flexibility and ease while I explain these to you, okay? So this is it. So this is what we are basically looking at. So a lot of those things, this is the basic stuff that we have, and there's a lot of copy pasting going on here, okay? So these are the 3 sections you want to look at. So the first section right here, so these things basically add a lot more variation to the textures. Otherwise, what you guys see down here would be a lot more tiled. So these two is what was causing a lot of variation in our textures. And if I drag this up, just up here, should do, and this is the basic format that I have all of my textures in, and this one is plugged. And I'll explain this in just a second. If you guys find that I'm going too slow, just skip the video a bit, but I want to make sure everyone who's watching gets to keep up and understands what I'm talking about and how this works. So this is the basic setup I have right here, and then from here we'll proceed later on. So if you guys copy this setup, copy and paste this setup multiple times, you can just say change these 2 materials, and you can have grass, snow, rock, whatever you want, anything, and it should add variation to it. As so long as, of course, it's not, the texture is seamless, so it's not, constantly tiled or something. So starting off, first thing I have. Now these textures, of course, are the links will be in the description, so I'm not going to keep talking about the same thing over and over again. So these textures I have here. First texture. To bring in a texture, you can just in your content browser, you can drag in a texture. You can press T, left click here. If you have selected in your content browser, it will bring the same texture. You can search for it down here as long as it's in your content browser. Okay. So I have the first texture here. The second texture. And I have a lerp node down here, and this lerp, so the first texture goes into A, and for the second texture what I'm doing here is I have connected the texture into A. I've added a multiply. You can bring in a multiply node with M, so C, M, and a lerp you can bring in by pressing L, okay? And the texture you can actually bring in by pressing T. So I'm just adding these so anyone who's watching can just check these. And then what I have here is I have a vector parameter which you can add by pressing V. Simple. Now a vector parameter has allows us a choice between 3 colors. Sorry, so 3. What is it? Sorry, RGB. So allows us basically it's a vector, and you can name these, which you can also access inside your material instances. This I have called the pebbles color. And I'm using the same color as the texture that I have combined this with. So I just did this and just dragged this on top of the texture and just picked the same color. And when you change this, this will add a lot more variation to the overall texture. So maybe if you wanted your this texture to be lighter or darker, you could do that down here, or change the colors and add variation to this. Okay. So this is the base setup. So texture, vector, multiply, and lerp. Okay. So now once we've looked at this, I'll move this away. And next thing we have down here is this, to add some variation. So first we have a texture coordinate, which I believe you can press U. Yep. So I'll make a box around this, and I'll type here U. You can press U to bring this in. You can press M to bring this in, and press T to bring this in. And this texture sample is actually also found in the material in the content, the starter content, which is T_macro variation. And this, so the texture coordinate, first of all, the value on this, on the U tiling, is 0.75, on the V tiling is 0.75. The lerp value is, so this is connected to, so the red channel is connected to the alpha here. Now this is very similar to the stuff in the starter content, because those are the materials I looked at while I was figuring this out. So the A I have minus 0.25, the B I have 2, and then this is plugged into a clamp. You can just type here clamp, and you can bring in a clamp, just like that. And the minimum for this is 0, and the maximum is 1, and the clamp mode is C mode clamp. Okay, and now we can move this away as well. Just gonna make a box around this as well. So we've covered these two, and this of course is connected to the alpha on the lerp right here. So this clamp is connected to the lerp down here, and then we have a multiply node down here, and this lerp goes into the B down here, and in the A down here what we have is we have more variation. So this adds a lot more variation to our texture. So we have 3 texture coordinates. Of course you can press U to bring each of them in. All of them are 1 by 1. And then we have multiply. Now these multiply values are different. So what a texture coordinate really does is it defines how much your texture should tile. So in this case what we are doing is we are having a tile less. In this case this is about around the middle, and this is extremely low, so low that the texture has actually gone to like completely white. So you guys, if you want, you guys can follow these values down here. I can set them out for you: 0.2134, 0.05341, 0.002, or you can just play around with those values and see what type of results you get. And then we have an add here. So this add is actually all of them are 0.5. What you guys could also do is you guys could add scalar parameters here, and you guys could name these, and you can edit them inside your material instance as well, which would allow a lot faster loading and saving times for your texture. Okay, and then we have a multiply. So the bottom 2 textures, so this bottom 2 setup has been multiplied together, and we have another multiply. And this, the first one, is in A, and this multiply goes into B, and this multiply goes into the other multiply down here. Okay? So, and then this multiply, now we have lots of these multiplies down here. So if I show you each of these materials that I have down here, so they have the basic setup as I showed you guys. This one you can ignore. This basic setup, which you can copy for all of these actually, even for grass. So this, so it's texture, multiply, lerp, and then we have the final multiply. And in the lerp again, if we recap, we have this thing going, and in the multiply we have this variation. So once you have made this variation, what I have done here is you can literally go here, you can type landscape, landscape layer, coordinate first of all. I'll just talk about this quickly. So what this is, this thing goes into, so if you guys notice down here, this thing goes into any of the textures. So this is connected to the UVs of any of the textures that you guys are using in this material. So this basically can connect to all of these textures. And the second thing we have down here is a layer blend. So you can type here landscape, and you can drag in a landscape layer blend. So it will start out empty. To add elements to this, you can use the plus key here, And now I will move on to this since this is already done. So for the first one, what I have done is I've called this grass ground. You can name this whatever you want. And if the blend type I'm using alpha blend, which is good because then this will overcome a lot of the issues that you might have when your textures don't blend in together and you have black dots and lines around your texture. So this first one is blend. Now I have added 4 of these. Now the rest of them, I have named them again, and the rest of them are weight blends, which works pretty good for me. Now currently I don't have any normal maps set up, but if you guys want to have normal maps, you can copy and paste this down here. You can connect that one to normal maps, and if you guys have normal maps for all of your textures, just follow the same procedure, connect the same nodes literally, and just replace these textures with normal maps for these, and you can plug that into the normal map and it should work quite fine. Okay, so obviously all these multipliers are connected into this layer blend. The next thing I have here is I have a scalar parameter. You can press S to spawn this. You can go to parameter name and you can type roughness here, and this will allow you to adjust your roughness on the fly through your material instance, your landscape material instance. Okay, now the next cool thing we have here is actually what actually spawns our grass into the scene, as I demonstrated earlier on. So to spawn this grass, what I have here is, first of all, you want to just still on landscape, search for landscape. You want to bring in a landscape layer sample. This you can call grass or foliage, whatever you want to call this. In this case I've called this grass ground, but however you want to make sure that the name is the same as whatever you have named your grass. If you want to spawn your grass, if let's say you want to spawn pebbles, make sure it's the same as your pebble layer, whatever you named it up here. So when you paint that layer, whatever is set in this grass option will spawn. Now these things will not have any collision, so don't do like trees and stuff, because you want to normally have collision on your trees. You don't want players going through them. Okay, and then the next thing here is, if you type grass down here, you can bring in a landscape grass output. Now you can only have one of these, so I already have one. I'm going to delete the second one. You can name this whatever you want again. You can add an element to this down here, and actually you can add multiple elements as well. And you can also so if I bring more, for example, if I say again sample, so landscape layer sample, I can bring this in, I can connect this here, and I can maybe do perhaps pebbles for this one. So first one I have rocks, second one I have pebbles. So for this I will call this pebble ground, for example. Or I can just call this rocks, just to show you guys what this does. Sorry, it's called ground rock. So yeah, just make sure the names are the same as up there. And then down here, so I've already made the grass one, so what I'll show you guys now is to demonstrate how to make a like one of these types, so it spawns whenever you paint that material. So I'm going to click apply down here. I'm going to minimize this. I already have my grass one, so I'll right click in here, go just below media to this option right to this right here, and you want to choose landscape grass type. Once you've chosen this, I'm going to call this type rock. Okay, now I'll open this, so double click to open this, and inside here you'll start off with just an empty place. You want to do a plus sign here. You can open this by clicking this drop down here. Now down here you can choose your static mesh that you want spawning on your rock. First thing I'm going to do is turn down this value. This is way too high. I'm going to turn this down to 1, because what I'm going to spawn is not going to be that small of a mesh. So this, I'm going to choose a simple mesh. It's quite low tris, so hopefully it won't crash or lag at all. Okay, now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, of course, these settings, this is the density, the cull distance is how far away you have to be from the object for it to be despawned from your scene. Your scaling is, so if you do, for example, 0.3 to 1, you can really see that the rocks will spawn in different sizes, random rotation aligned to surface. So these options, once you've done this, you click save, you go back to your material. Down here you can click on this, you can name this rock, and in grass type you can choose type rock and save. Okay, And if you guys have followed these steps, you guys should have your your texture ready. So your material ready, your landscape material ready. And of course, yeah. So as long as you follow the same steps as I showed you guys up here, just change the textures, then you guys should have put a nice looking material. So now if I go back to my material, instantly something really cool has happened. So now before, where we had, if I go to my paint, of course, when you do apply your material to your landscape, if you go to paint, first thing you will need to do is you will have a plus sign, right? You will click that plus sign, you will click on weight blend, you will press OK. It will make copies of these. So if I search this, for example, I have already made these, so it will make these layer, which will tell the system what they actually are. And then you want to basically, if you guys have an error, make sure there's no spaces, because this does not allow any, Unreal Engine does not allow any spaces. So either take the space away or use the underscore key. Okay, so now if I go to paint, now whenever I paint grass, for example, I have grass spawning. Whenever I paint rock, for example, I get these rock spawning. But then again, as I already mentioned, the issue that there is with these is, if I walk through them, there will not be any collision, and you can't have any collision on these. So make sure whatever you are spawning like this, it doesn't require collision. For example, ground pebbles might not require collision. So this is just a thing to keep in mind. And then once your material is ready, you guys can paint as much as you want, make different parts. And of course, the options we actually set up, the vector parameters we used, can all be found once you so for your material, your main material, you can right click, create material instance, which you will drag onto your landscape. Now if I open this, so in here all the vector parameters and the roughness values we added are right here. So this will allow us, now this will not change the actual color of the grass, because this will only change the texture on the ground, but we can play around with this. If I do yellow, you can see the grass, the ground texture changes. Now I have two colors, but that if you guys follow my procedure, the one color should be all fine as well. And then of course you have mud down here as well. So if I do, I don't know, blue, to show you guys what it does. So now we have like kind of just like bluey shade in our mud right here. And then we have our pebbles down here, so the pebble part. This I can make green, for example, and now it looks like we have kind of like a mossy texture, like moss with our leaves. So these textures with a little variation can be used for very different things. And rock again, let's just add some kind of like a moss again. We can just change this to green, and we have some moss. Now before I do finish this tutorial, one last thing I want to add is, if for example let's just say you want to have different colors changing, so what you guys can do is, if I drag this whole thing down here to show you guys the difference between these two. So what you can actually do down here is you can leave this just like this multiply down here, because I'm going to disconnect this because there's just too much stuff coming in. So you guys can actually have more than one vector parameters. You can multiply them quite a few times, and this will add even more randomness to your texture. For example, my grass, as I showed you guys earlier inside my my landscape material instance. So when I change one, for example, I'll change this to red so you can really see the effect. This changes this area. When I change the second one to blue, this changes the rest of the area. So this is a really cool tip for you guys as well. So I guess this kind of covers the tutorial. I hope you guys found this useful, and I hope you guys did not get confused. So now for the last 2 or 3 minutes, what I'll do is I'll just take my camera over. So I'll just open the main grass material. I'll leave it on my screen for a bit. I'll just go through it slowly, so you guys can make sure that you guys follow the right steps. So just to make sure, so this is the texture setup, the texture material setup. You can of course have so if you want to add, let's say, more multiply, you can do another multiply here, and then you can do same texture. You can connect the same texture. Sorry, add another vector parameter here. You can call this pebble color 2 or something, and you can multiply these two together, or you can layers them together, whatever you want to do, and you can connect these into down here again. So you have a lot more variation. So things like this will add variation. You can play around with them, but it's probably best if you keep the original thing that I showed you until you understand exactly what you are doing. Okay, so this thing, and then we have this thing down here. Just so you guys can follow, I'll go through them. So you can see the values down here as well. Okay. And then these ones. Okay, which we have connected to another multiply node, and this multiply node goes into our layer blend. I'm just really anxious because I don't want people missing out on what's going on here, because I know it's a lot of stuff. I'll try to simplify as much as I could. So yeah, I hope you guys did find this useful, and of course for the layer graphs you can add more, as many things as you want. Which is, I literally just found out that I could have more than one of these. I thought I could only have one. So that's a cool new thing for me that I just learned as well, which is why I was quite surprised. If you go back in the video, you guys can find I was quite surprised when I could add rocks as well. So then guys, this is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video somewhat, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, bye.